And Mike to call for Lana for runway 29.
Lana for runway 29, Mark Echo Alpha.
Norfolk Zulu. And Norfolk Zulu 1 above 3. Norfolk Calendar Jam, you're turning and landing. We are
alrighty, final approach is clear.
Norfolk Zulu said about
leg is clear. We do have departing traffic over 06 into Platform
29 checks, 2929. 1021, copy, speed is around 5,600 feet and southward of South Atlantic. There we go. Roger, call for 189 to takeoff and calm, climb to 6,000 feet, what about?
Runway 29 clear for takeoff, climb to 6,000 feet, report up on next Mark Echo Alpha.
There we go.
Alrighty, so just hold your brakes there.
1021, copy.
Just advance to 25, that's where the turbo will take over. Stable on 25, release the brakes. Advance there to 36. There we go. Okay, bring it back. A little bit less than that, that's perfect. Okay, hold us there. Good.
55 degrees. And 65 knots. RPM full.
Let's go to 60. And start to rotate. Beautiful. Very nice. Right, just lower the nose over there. Smile. Let us gain a bit. Insufficient runway ahead. Brakes applied. Undercarriage up and locked. Very nice. And there's 90. Let's go by. Mike Echo Alpha, request to overtake the 172 on the inside. Okay, you can start turning early now. We're going to overtake them on the right one. Mike Echo Alpha.
Right, today we're going to be talking about the differences between familiarization training and differences training. For those of you not in the know, welcome to Lesotho's Pride. My name is Khotso. So we're going to talk about the three different aspects related to the two. The first one is, how do we define familiarization training and how can we define differences training? Number two, we're going to look at which one requires an aviation training organization, which is an ATO. And number three, I'm going to be using for my current and previous experience as an example to both familiarization and differences training. So now let's have a look at familiarization training, and the most important thing we can do is to look directly at the source, which is air law. Now if we look at part 61.09.9, which is familiarization training, under 1.1, it states, for single engine class aircraft, familiarization training is required when converting from one variant to another of the same model or from one model to another of the same aircraft manufacturer, and no additional system is involved. If we look at 2.1, it states aircraft which require a type rating, either familiarization or differences training is required. The specific requirements are stipulated in the training column of the list of aircraft types, which is published on the SACAA website. So let's give an example of 1.1. So let's say, for example, you have done the differences training on an M20C, which is a Mooney, and now you want to move on to the M20F. Now, with the M20C, you would have had endorsed onto your logbook a variable pitch endorsement as well as retractable undercarriage endorsement, right? So now if you're moving on to the M20F, it is the same manufacturer. It has the same variable pitch endorsement as well as the retractable undercarriage endorsement. Therefore, in this instance, you should only require familiarization training. Now you may ask, how is that carried out? Well, simply put, all you need to do are briefings. So effectively, you're never going to be actually flying the aircraft specific to this training. So once the instructor is satisfied that you're competent enough in the knowledge of the aircraft, the instructor can therefore endorse you on your logbook for that particular aircraft. And then you just fill up the application form, which is found on the SACA website, and submit it to them. Now with differences training, you actually need to do not only briefings, but you need to write a technical exam, which is an open book, and as well as do dual flight training, therefore having to fly in the aircraft. So the law under part 61.09.8 states that you require differences training if you're changing manufacturers, that is, you've never flown this type of manufacturer before. So for example, let's say you've only flown a Piper and you want to fly a Cessna, which requires differences training. The other aspect is, if you look at the column number 2 and column number 4, it states that if you've never done variable pitch, retractable undercarriage, turbocharger or supercharger, pressurized cabin, tailwheel dragger, turboprop or EFIS training, and have an endorsement on your logbook, you therefore need to do differences training. So a good example of this is, let's say for example, you've been flying the Piper Archer 181, which for the most part has analog instruments. But now you have access to a Piper Archer LX, which is one of the latest models of the Archer. The Piper Archer LX has G1000 instruments, as well as many useful features or lovely features to help you fly along. Now, because the Piper Archer LX has a G1000 cockpit, which is an EFIS endorsement requirement, you therefore need to do differences training, even though it is the same manufacturer. A second example to this is if you are still flying the Piper Archer 181, but you now have access to a SR22T, which is a Cirrus. The SR22T not only has an EFIS cockpit, it also has a variable pitch propeller, but the most important aspect, well, and a turbocharger, but the most important aspect is that it is a different manufacturer. So even if you had the VP endorsement, the retractable undercarriage endorsement, and a turbocharger endorsement, you would still need to do differences training solely for the reason that it is a different manufacturer. Now, what about part 2 as well as part 3? Now, part 2 states that aircraft within a multi-engine class requires differences training for all cases. So for example, if you're flown the Seneca and if you want to fly a Beechcraft Baron, then you would need to do differences training. Now, if we look at aircraft which require a type rating, which is subsection 3, it states that either familiarization or differences training is required. The specific requirements are stipulated in the training column of the list of aircraft types, which is published on the SACAA website. For the life of me, I have yet to find that list myself, so if anyone knows, please go ahead and pop the link in the comment section below. So now let's look at my experience, my current and previous experience. So for this month, I've just done the convex on the P28R, or more specifically, the PA28201T, right, which is the Piper Arrow 3, which has a turbocharger, retractable undercarriage, as well as a variable pitch propeller, right? So now I've completed that training, and I have that endorsement on my logbook. But in my previous experience, I've actually flown a variable pitch aircraft as well as retractable undercarriage, and that was the M20C, the Mooney, right? If you want to see that particular flight, or one of the flights that I did on the Mooney, you can check it up on the pop-up banner above. But I flew that Mooney 4 years ago. 4 years ago is a very long time. And if you recall, in one of my previous videos, I talked about the forgetting curve. And the forgetting curve stipulates that if you have not done remedial training within a month, at the end of the month, you will have forgotten 90% of what you have studied. So it's been 4 years that I have not flown that particular Mooney. And so I think I am very much overdue for remedial training. So I'm quite happy to actually be flying again a complex aircraft. Right, so that's it for today. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Now, if you want to comply to the YouTube algorithm regulations, please subscribe to the channel as well as give it a like. And of course, if you want to keep up your recency in aviation entertainment, you can follow up with my videos, which I publish every Wednesday or every other Wednesday, but you will find a video always published on a Wednesday. So thank you very much, guys, once again, and Enjoy the rest of your day.
23 hours endurance, airborne runner park, request your joining and landing. And for Kilo Victor Alpha, what's your position, man? Victor Alpha, what's your position?
Kilo Victor Alpha, overhead total port at 5,100 feet.
Victor Alpha, climb to 6,000 feet. And there we go, the speed is up. Center line of runway 29, routing along the ridge. I've got the IFR last shortly long final runway 29. Victor Alpha, did you copy me?
Say again for Kilo Victor Alpha.
Seeing the final off runway 29. Market Alpha short. Market Alpha runway 29, touch and go and come. Runway 29, okay, touch and go, Market Alpha. There we go, sometimes you have to be rude.
Approach bomb, Kilo Victor Alpha.
Kilo Victor Alpha, alrighty, close power now. Outbound passing to Mamelodi, looking around the ridge.
Coming 6,000, Kilo outbound Mamelodi.
There we go, all set, all set. Very nice, very nice.